You're listening to WCOM LP 103.5 FM Carborough and Chapel Hill. It's a Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, and that only means one thing. It's time for another round of Snarky Faith with your host, Stuart Deloney. This is a space where we irreverently wrestle through life, culture, and spirituality, all with our heads in the clouds, our tongues in our cheeks, our hearts in our sleeves, and our feet on the ground. At Snarky Faith, the questions or even the answers are never the point. It's all about the conversation. So here's your host, Stuart Deloney.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another round of Snarky Faith Radio. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney, and I want to welcome you in here to the show. So, yes, I want to begin. I'm going to begin this show, the little reading from Brother Lawrence, and I'm going to end the show with You Got It. Another little reading from Brother Lawrence. Ho, ho, ho! Lawrence bookends. Yeah, that's right. So Brother Lawrence had said this: let us think often that our only business in this life is to please God. Perhaps all besides is but folly and vanity. So guess what? I feel like we're going to be covering a lot of folly and vanity on the show today. And for me to try to say whether or not the show pleases God, well, that would be fairly blasphemous and weird and odd. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Not a little bit, actually a lot about that today. There's a lot of things we're going to be talking about today. I mean, we do have a whole hour to hang out with you. And, you know, I prefer that you put the money on the nightstand. So afterwards, we don't get all awkward after, right? You got it. You got it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, folly and vanity. Here we go. Oh, my goodness. So there's so much to talk about today. So one thing we'll be talking about too, not yet, but I want to tell you, this show, if you are listening to it, it goes live on the air in Chapel Hill and Carborough on a Tuesday afternoon. The rest of you out there get it online usually around Wednesday. I'm getting better, usually around Wednesday, right? So I'm recording, as you can guess it, on Monday, Tuesday. It's just how the week goes. It's the order of things. Wow. No. So I'm recording this on Monday. And for most of you that are listeners of the show, especially if you're listening to it terrestrially on radio, you know we're in North Carolina. And something else is going on in North Carolina this week that we're going to be talking a little bit here and there about in our show. Yeah. So, hey, this just happened. Actually, this show is filled with a lot of this just happened today, but this one, thank you, Twitter, just literally happened. So Trump is speaking at the RNC, which is in Charlotte. Womp womp. And he mentions Barack Obama, and one of his supporters yells out, "Monkey." Trump responds by saying, "No, we're not going to have that kind of racist talk around here. That's disgusting. I'm not a racist." That's not what he did. Oh, yes. So someone yells the word monkey, and Trump says, "Be nice," laughs, and then says, "Only in North Carolina." Now, what I want to tell this fat bag of skin and bronzer is no, this is not only in North Carolina. This is not normal. This is not normalized. This is not the state that I live in and have for the last almost a decade now and love. I've grown to see the diversity that is North Carolina. As a person that grew up in the South, I grew up in Atlanta. I had really grown so sick of the racism. My wife and I, once we first got married and started looking for different kinds of jobs, at one point, it led us eventually to the West Coast because I was like, I'm so sick of ignorant bigotry disguised as family values. I eventually came back to the South, and I love my home here in North Carolina. I love Chapel Hill and Carborough very much. And I know remarks like that are not indicative of our state. Are there rube-ass idiots that live in this state? Well, heck yes. Come on. Appalachia and Mark Meadows. What's the difference? Who knows? But yes, that should not be indicative of our state. And it's not okay. And, the president should have called it out, but hey, I'll do it right now. That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. That's the end of that. I just needed to point that out because it really pissed me off when I saw that only in Carolina was trending on Twitter. Because that is Trump on brand. That is not North Carolina on brand. Well, we were a state that just years back had a bathroom bill that was pushed through, and we are one of the stars of NASCAR. So, yeah, progress is still happening. North Carolina is a beautiful state with beautiful people, and I do not want hate to be known as a present reality. And I'm sorry, I retract my statement on NASCAR. NASCAR recently banned Confederate flags. Progress is progress and deserves to be pointed out. So I apologize, NASCAR. Well done. Keep it up. So let me get off my soapbox. Ba-boom. All right, I'm off it now. I don't know that was a sound effect that a soapbox would have when you're getting off. I don't really know why I thought ba-boom would make sense. My apologies. So, moving on from that, welcome to the show. You got a little flavor of what we go after here on the show, but here at Snarky Faith, our main goal is to be able to try to pull out the insanity that has become American Christianity and begin to show really what the teachings of Jesus are about or supposed to be about. We try to take it out of the hands of the angry, misogynist bigots that are out there that have somehow dominated American Christianity for a long time. We want to reclaim the words of Jesus in a way that is positive and tangible and moves us all towards loving people more and bringing about justice, compassion, and mercy. I don't think that's too much to ask, right? Right? Yeah. But we do all of that, and we mix it in a little bit of
sarcasm.
Okay, fine. A lot of sarcasm. And you may hear this for obvious reasons. We're here to keep it real. We're here to keep it honest. We're here to keep it snarky. And I want to remind you that just after we end this broadcast, that you can catch this and all of our podcasts at www.snarkyfaith.com or anywhere people listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. It's endless. Podcasts, just look up Snarky Faith. Want to talk to me after the show? You just send me an email. Questions@snarkyfaith.com. I respond to everyone that writes me, good or bad. And we also have this. Some people have used this a few times, mainly because I've actually remembered to be mentioning it on the show, but we have a snarky hotline where you can drop us live voicemail. Live. You can just drop us voicemail. That makes way more sense. 919-525-1570. That's right, 919-525-1570. The snarky hotline. You can say we're awesome. You can say we're terrible. Say anything. It'll probably end up on the air. And if I'm sounding like an infomercial right now, well, we're going to talk about someone that does infomercials later. Yeah, we'll get there. So every week we do a segment on the show called The Christian Crazy, highlighting the insanity of Christianity to really be able to point out, what does this have to do with Jesus? Yeah, that thing. And I get emails from listeners out there, and a lot of times people will send me stuff like to be in the Christian Crazy, like really crazy articles that go in. Some of them make it in, some of them don't. And I actually wanted to, this week, give you a little bit of rationale for what makes it into the Christian Crazy every week. I mean, yes, it's the worst of Christianity. It's the most egregious in craziness, right? The things that are like, what? What does this have to do with Jesus? Sure. It's that. But I wanted to bring up the fact that there are actually ones that people will send me, or ones that I stumble onto as I'm looking every week, that I would say that is absolutely crazy, and I absolutely do not want that to be on my show. And I'll explain to you why. So there is a lot of insanity within Christianity, and a lot of it is stuff that's easy for us to poke fun of, make fun of, or mock, and I do that because it's a coping mechanism, and I think it helps a lot of other people as well to hear someone say, no, that's crazy, that's just crazy. But then there's this other realm of crazy that ends up getting into really hate speech that is shocking, because you hear pastors say things that are vile and hateful and demeaning of people. And so folks sometimes will send me these because they're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe someone said this. And I agree. Like, I totally agree. It's disgusting what they're saying. But sometimes just telling you, maybe this is just my own sensitivity for people, but I just I don't mind broadcasting the crazy if we can make fun of it and turn it into something slightly redemptive. But when there's just disgusting hate speech, I mean, what more is there to say? Oh, that person, that's a hateful bastard, and he does not know Jesus. That's really all I could say. And just to show you an example of this, I'm going to highlight this, and it's to me, it grieves me, but it's not as disgusting as a lot of these things get. This is Pastor Patrick Wooden, preaching on a Sunday service, degrading the LGBTQ community in his attempted pastoral roast of Kamala Harris. Huh? Yeah, here you go. And trigger warning, hate speech.
That's Kamala. And let me tell you, anybody who's trying to turn America into Sodom and Gomorrah is not good for this nation. She's not good for the state, and she ain't good for black folk. We need husbands and wives. We need fathers. We need mothers. Men born male, women born female. We need real people. Ow!
Thank you, hateful James Brown. And I only say that because of the wow. I can't even do it. Is this guy a pastor? It would surprise me, because really what I hear him is teaching intolerance, teaching hate, degrading people, telling people they aren't people. See, that's gross. That's disgusting. And there's nothing further from the heart of Christ. Now, also, may I point out, this is a church that's still meeting in person during the pandemic. So, so tracking with me. I just wanted to use that example of stuff because there's plenty of crazy stuff on the internet to look through. You should look up independent fundamental Baptist preachers. There's an absolute veritable cornucopia of Cro-Magnums that still live and preach this way and believe this way. Yeah. But most of it just verges on disgusting hate speech, and while I can kind of laugh at their stupidity, it's just not that funny when they're saying awful things to people. So, I was just a little bit of house cleaning there. I wanted to clear that up because I really feel like a lot of that is going to fit into what we're going to today. All right? So that's kind of a public service announcement with a purpose. So moving on, that's the kind of stuff we keep out of the Christian crazy because it's not, it's just hate speech. It's literally just hate speech. So for a better example of what we led into the Christian crazy, here we go.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
So for making an appearance here into the Christian crazy, this individual does not make it here week to week. This individual most of the time fits into the category that I just told you I don't like in here. Old man conservative hate speech. We don't like that. It's not good for anybody, and especially not their prostates. Don't know what that means. Moving on here. So I told my wife, I'm building this here. So I told my wife, hey, guess who I'm going to mention here on the Christian Crazy? And she replied, after I mentioned said person's name, is he still alive? Or actually, that would have been a nicer way for me to put it. Or my wife Miriam's response, isn't he dead yet? That is the beautiful woman that I married. And I mean that with everything. Because this person is the well, okay, I'm going to give you some teasers. Let's see if you can figure this out. I'm going to give you a couple of breadcrumbs to figure out who I'm talking about. I'm going to give a couple of examples. California. Pastor. Has a Bible named after himself. looks like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. Anyone? Anyone? But if you said John MacArthur, you're the winner! Though you may be the winner for guessing this, you're still a loser for knowing who John MacArthur is, because really that's just a waste of time and space. I've kind of learned that from John MacArthur over the years, that yes, if you can understand hateful, crunchy old men that hate women, that's John MacArthur. Throw in some like hemorrhoids and anal fissures just to put him in a good mood, and he's ready to preach. So yes. So in my throwing of breadcrumbs also throughout the show, we're about to get to even bigger story after this, okay? All I'm going to say is John MacArthur is here being interviewed. So yes, he's being interviewed here by Ryan Helfeben, the executive director of Liberty University's Falkirk Center, what they call their think tank. That's just irony, liberty and thinking. But more on liberty in a little bit. Also something else that kind of broke open even more before I just recorded the show. So it's a grand day for Snarky Faith. I hope you're having fun. Oh, wait, yeah. Let's make sure we got to get to the dirty John MacArthur. So yes, John MacArthur is speaking here, and this is a point in the interview where he has already confirmed that there is no way that you can be a follower of Christ and vote Democrat. He's already laid this out. And now, what he's also going to lay out is this. Is his version of the kingdom of God and Christianity. He says it in one hateful, nasty little nutshell like this. See if you can spot the love of Jesus anywhere. Spoiler alert, you won't.
We have a world full of fallen people. You have to restrain these fallen people. God knows that. And God basically put into place 4 restraints. The first restraint is individual. It's the law of God written in the heart. Romans 2, it's either accusing or excusing. So God has a mechanism in every human being. It's part of being human that triggers guilt when you do something against the law of God written in the heart.
Very kinky. We're not even to that area of the show where we talk about kinks today, Stuart. I know. Hold on. We'll get there. But really, God's all about restraints, holding back naughty people. God. And then God put in a mechanism for all of us humans to have. It's called guilt and shame. God made it. God gave it to you. It's a gift. It's a mechanism. It's what? Christianity's purpose via John MacArthur is to fix messed up people. People are born in the image of God, but they're all too damn screwed up. And we need some old curmudgeon to go and do it in the most hateful, vile way possible. Condemning, calling out, dehumanizing, guilting and shaming. Oh, are those the fruit of the Spirit? God laid them in our hearts. Oh, guilt and shame, we love you.
Sarcasm.
See, I grew up around a lot of this version of conservative Christianity where literally God is a sadist. And literally, if you begin to read a lot of this, you can understand why a lot of conservatives, I really feel like conservatism really has become I'm telling you, political conservatism or religious conservatism has really become about repression. It has become about repression of self and also repression of other people's rights and abilities. That's what it has become about. And growing up even around this kind of a thing, the MacArthurism way of doing this is you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. And where you're at, God hates you. And you need to know that. You need to know that you're trash so you can realize that God hates you so much that you want to then make yourself better so God will eventually love you. And Jesus died because Jesus was about love, but part of our tenet is killing things about love, right? Let's kill him. Yeah, John MacArthur probably enjoys the death of Jesus way too much. So fast forwarding in his insightful, inspiring talk, our sadistic daddy here is after he told us about all these restraints that are being broken by Democrats and why breaking restraints is bad and it'll get you punishment. Ooh. This is going to be one of the most bizarre shows talking about Christian kinks. I never planned on doing, but somehow, Christians, you did this to me. Sorry, back to John MacArthur and his vision. This is why the Democratic Party is against God.
Then it is an all-out, massive, comprehensive assault on God and on what God has placed in the world to protect people, to allow for civilization to flourish so that he can be honored in that civilization because they see him through the law in the heart, through the family, passing righteousness from one generation to the next, through law and order, and through the church, which is the pillar and ground of the truth, salt and light in the world. It doesn't surprise me that every one of these institutions is being completely assaulted and attacked.
Now, the one true statement I will say that he did say in the midst of this, that the church is called to be the salt and light in the world, meaning that the church, the people of God, are called to go out there to make the world a better place. A better place. So I can absolutely kind of just agree with that one little micro statement there. But, I don't want you to miss his characterization of God. Because he's essentially saying that God created humanity. God created civilizations. So we could see that God was great and we would worship him. Like, let that sink in just a little bit. God didn't create us out of love. God didn't create us out of creativity or abundance or anything like that. No. God created us because we need to worship him. That's a very narcissistic God that John MacArthur follows, because John MacArthur is a sick and narcissistic man. And he finishes it off with icing and a cherry on top with this.
And since the Democratic Party has that attack and assault as their platform, I mean, just think of this. Joe Biden said the other day he's going to make sure he fills his cabinet with Muslims. That is as anti-Christian a statement as you could possibly make. That is a blasphemy of the true and living God.
It's fascinating that he likes to talk about the true and living God in the same statement where he's actually just making up bald-faced lies. Him saying that, if I say Biden's going to fill his entire cabinet with Muslims, who will that scare? Oh, it's going to scare Trump's base because, the Muslims are going to get us. Did Joe Biden say that? No. Did he say that he is going to try to reach out to Muslim Americas throughout our nation? Yes. Do we want to be a nation of all people together? Sure. But just because they're Muslims and don't believe the same way you do, you see, Johnny boy, that's not biblical. That's just bigotry. Plain and simple. Who did God call us to love? Oh, yeah, you forgot that one. God called us to love. I think you missed that on the test. It's kind of a big deal. But MacArthur's brand of Christianity doesn't concern itself with silly little things like love. Oh, no. Love gets in the way of all of our hating. So moving on to the main story before our main story, but it's all really kind of talking about, especially with us having the RNC this week in my kind of backyard. Yeah, we're talking about folks, if you haven't noticed so far, that are really kind of in and around Trump's orbit. You know, the best people. The best people. So I've been kind of teasing talking about this the entire time, and teasing is all that this is about. In our next story, meow. The next two news events that we're going to be talking about are the reason that I see similarities between both of them are that they're centered around people that use God. Maybe I should put it better this way, that use the thought of God as a tool to make money off of other tools. Now, I've been talking a lot about kink, and things don't get kinkier. Liberty University. Now, I believe it was literally only a week ago that I brought to you that Jerry Falwell Jr. was stepping down from Liberty University. Now, that was kind of good news, and he had been through a bunch of weirdness that eventually led them to make him step down. Now, that weirdness went from like a 9 to like a 23 over the past 2 days. Okay, so going into like taping this show, like at the time of day. All right. So I'm compiling stuff early in my afternoon. And I was just going to mention this weird thing that had happened. I thought it was just out of the ordinary. It came in the news yesterday. So in my news feed, I hear a story that Jerry Falwell is talking about how difficult it is for him dealing with depression because his wife had an affair, and that it was very hard on him, and that the man she had an affair with was extorting them. It was kind of this weird way of him kind of out of nowhere seeming to kind of answer the question of what the hell's going on and what's up with your weird behavior. Yeah. I thought it was out of left field, but I also eventually thought of, well, that's one way to clean your plate. Just blame it on your wife. Well, that wasn't out of nowhere. And Reuters broke this story this afternoon. Now, again, Monday afternoon, if you're keeping my timeline straight here. I'm going to read a lot from their article here. I'll just let their words paint the picture of really what's going on with Falwell Jr. Spoiler alert, if your ears can't handle things that aren't allowed on the Liberty University Honor Code, you might as well just put your fingers in your ears for the next 2 minutes and say, Liberty, Liberty, Liberty. Or whatever the stupid emu commercial is, sorry. Now that the children are out of the room, let me remind you, Jerry Falwell Jr., the son of Jerry Falwell, the prominent televangelist, shyster, founder of Liberty University, and others such. That Jerry Falwell Jr., the Jerry Falwell Jr. that is a huge supporter of Trump, seemed to come out of left field. We'll get to that more. But this article, it's a Reuters exclusive by Aram Roston, called Business Partners of Falwell Say Affair with Evangelical Power Couple Spanned 7 years. Oh, you know it's true, because in the Bible, 7 is a number of completion. That's a biblical number. And I'm pretty sure, so many completion jokes I'm not going to make right now. I'm just going to read this. Giancarlo Granda said he was 20 when he met Jerry and Becky Falwell while working as a pool attendant at Fontainebleau Miami Beach Hotel in March of 2012. Starting that month and continuing into 2018, Granda told Reuters that relationship involved him having sex with Becky Falwell while Jerry Falwell looked on. Let me continue without commentary. It continues here. Granda first emerged as a figure in the Falwell circle 2 years ago when BuzzFeed News reported that the couple had befriended Granda and gone into business with him, buying a Miami Beach youth hostel in 2013. Normal Christian stuff, right? Yeah. At the time of the BuzzFeed article, a representative of the Falwell family said that Granda was offered a share in Alton Hostels LLC because Granda lived in Miami and would act as a manager of the youth hostel. Corporate records show that Granda currently has stake in the venture. Becky Falwell did not respond to emails or phone text messages from Reuters. After Reuters presented the initial reportings early last week to the Falwells, a lawyer for Jerry Falwell, Michael Bowe, said the evangelical leader, quote, categorically denies everything you indicated that you intended to publish about him. On Sunday night, however, Reuters was preparing to publish this article. Jerry Falwell issued a statement to the Washington Examiner in which he said that his wife had an affair with Granda and that Granda had been trying to extort money from the couple over the matter. Granda denies any such intent, saying that he was seeking to negotiate a buyout from the business arrangement he said he had with the couple. All right? So there's that. So Jerry Falwell, trying to get out in front of this, releases his random out of nowhere statement. Okay. So what he had told the Examiner was this, quote, Becky had an inappropriate personal relationship with this person, something in which I was not involved. Now, we all know earlier, like a week or two ago, Falwell took indefinite leave of absence, mainly due to some bizarre pictures and bizarre behavior that's kind of been happening in the press for a while. Now, we have Jerry, who we know, but also, the article continues, Becky Falwell is a political figure in her own right. She served in the advisory board of the group of Women for Trump, which advocates for the president's re-election campaign. She also spoke as part of a panel with her husband and Donald Trump Jr. last year's Conservative Political Action Conference, the signature annual gathering for conservatives. Jerry Falwell and others refer to her as the First Lady of Liberty University. And let me remind you that the honor code in Liberty University is sexual relations outside a biblically ordained marriage between a natural-born man and a natural-born woman, a woman, are not permissible at Liberty University. That is their code. Now. What? But the Reuters article continues with this because they are laying out this. They have tons of information from Granda, from emails, towards recordings, towards videos, all this kind of stuff to back all this up. They finished the article by saying this. Granda said that while he entered into the sexual relationship with the Falwells willingly, today he feels the couple preyed upon him. Quote, whether it was immaturity, naivete, instability, or a combination, therefore, it was this mindset that the Falwells likely detected in deciding that I was the ideal target for their sexual escapades. In a statement released Friday, before this news came out, before the news of the relationship with Granda became public, Liberty University had said its decision on whether or not to retain Falwell as president had not been made. Its board of trustees and the statement read, requested prayer and patience as they seek the Lord's will and also seek information for assessment. Yeah! Assess this! Assess. Oh, so I'm not even going to gloat with this. I'm not even going to gloat with the fact that Jerry Falwell Jr. is some sort of repressive cuckold, that's his thing, then he likes to watch another man have sex with his wife. Fine. If that's what you like to do, if that's your thing out there, I again, yay. Hey, if there's adults that are doing things that are not consenting, I may not be my thing, but hey, if you're not hurting other people, but we have Falwell holding a position as a religious, an evangelical religious leader whose university has held a very, very strong, stringent honor code that throws people out. And he's having a thing with the missus and a pool boy. This is stuff that didn't even get mentioned when it came out before, but I'm just going to go ahead and say this. One thing that Michael Cohen had said years back was the fact that he helped Jerry Falwell get pictures, salacious pictures of his wife out of the hands of other people. So Michael Cohen was a fixer for Jerry Falwell Jr. And around the time, as Cohen lays out, was also around the time where he became a very big supporter of Trump. All this is alleged. But it paints a picture That's a tale as old as time. It's Christianity and the BS. That's what is happening here. People that profess to say they know the will of God, people that judge others, that deal in guilt and shame of other people, that they themselves don't even care about following on their own. I mentioned this earlier, somehow that conservatism, I feel like, is the party of repression. I feel like conservatives have problems like this. We see this over and over again. The guy that's the most homophobic is getting caught in the hotel with a gay prostitute. So these people are into, yes, this is where John MacArthur's Christianity excels in telling people to hate what they are, and it ends up erupting into all sorts of weird things. I'll even go as far to say this. I actually believe that conservative Christians have bigger, weirder kinks than people that live out in the open with their kinks. I believe their kinks are so weird and twisted and messed up in many ways because they've been taught to self-loathe, to self-hate. And that's a problem. And it's a problem when we do that in the name of Jesus. Now, originally, my main idea, and we're still getting to this right now, was to be able to talk about this guy. Because I'm tired of people using the name of God for whatever stupid, idiotic thing they have to be able to sell and continue to trash the name of God and Jesus in the process. But let's now move on to this conservative Christian dumbass.
You're that guy.
The My Pillow guy.
That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives. Oh, you have a down pillow.
You know who doesn't like to go down? Jerry Falwell, because he just watches. Sorry, I'll stop it. All right, let me compose myself. That's right, we're talking today about Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy.
A friend of mine, Mike Lindell of My Pillow. Boy, do you sell those pillows? That's unbelievable what you do.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your call to action, which has empowered companies like MyPillow to help our nation win this invisible war. God gave us grace on November 8, 2016, to change the course we were on. God had been taken out of our schools and lives. A nation had turned its back on God. And I encourage you to use this time at home to get back in the Word, read our Bibles, and spend time with our families. Our president gave us so much hope where just a few short months ago, we had the best economy, the lowest unemployment, and wages going up. It was amazing. With our great president, vice president, and this administration, and all the great people in this country praying daily, we will get through this and get back to a place that's stronger and safer than ever.
Yeah, the Mike Lindell that said that at a Rose Garden press briefing. Yep, he's like a sycophant that likes to just support the president and continuously somehow insert God into Trump's narrative and also his own because, it was God. It was God that gave him the dream of My Pillow. So literally, it's like God's pillow. Like My Pillow is not even Mike's. It's really like God saying that's my pillow. Oh, Yeah. The guy that used to be a card counter in Vegas, a drug addict, and someone whose company has an F with the Better Business Bureau. That Mike Lindell, that one, that had to settle out of court for false claims his My Pillow could fix like everything. Yeah, that Mike Lindell, the guy that's all about truth and Jesus and God and making the world better because God. So what led me to talk about kind of this topic this week that we've been kind of dancing around was the fact that Mike Lindell went on Anderson Cooper's show on CNN to be able to tout what he is claiming is definitively the cure for COVID. Yes. And he's, well, I'll let you, I mean, I would say it's not a waste of your time to watch this utterly insane interview, if you could call it that. It's really just Lindell rambling in circles and Anderson Cooper kind of just being like, but wait, what? That kind of a thing. But the thing that stuck out to me most about this is not that Mike Lindell is probably still a crazy crackhead. No, that's not what I'm after here. What I'm after here is the fact that his defense for most things in his crazy underhanded railing about a new drug, which he also happens to be on the board of. It's a drug that hasn't been proven. I'll let you listen to some of this, but yes. What he keeps saying is, my job is just to do what God tells me to do. And this is really what I wanted to talk about for the remainder of the show. I'm going to show you the example that we have here. But this is what begins to piss me off. When we have all of these people that continue to say, well, God told me. God told me to do this. I'm doing this for God. Because I really want to talk about the excuses that we make in the name of God to cover up a myriad of sins and the delusion that lets a lot of conservatives continue to look at themselves in the mirror every day and say, I'm doing God's work here, buddy. But before that, let's just get a little taste of some of the interview. I'm gonna throw you out some snippets, because you can watch the whole thing. And if you think I'm deceptively editing this, watch the entire 20-minute interview. It is nuts.
You don't
it's
have
bananas
a medical
from start to
background.
finish.
You're not a scientist, yet you're claiming this substance, which has not been studied in any meaningful way, can cure COVID, and you have a financial stake in the company. You would profit from it if this is being sold widely. Morally, is that right?
Well, I was contacted on Easter Sunday after, that I told the whole country to pray for the answer for this pandemic. And it's a great administration has had me, anything I hear out there of whether it be good sanitizers or cures or anything, to bring it back to the task force. So this guy called me on Easter Sunday and said he had an answer to the virus. And I reached out to my friend, Secretary Carson, who's on the task force, and he's a doctor, and he looked into it all, got everything from the company, and he said, this is the real deal. It's been tested by over 1,000 people to be safe. Medical tests.
Wait a minute, sir. Wait a minute. Stop. Let's stop. There's no public peer-reviewed studies about this. There's no. Yeah, there is. There's no human trials that have been published anywhere.
So Lindell in the Rose Garden tells everyone to pray the COVID away, and then as a miracle on Easter Sunday, he gets a call about some sort of new snake oil. What? Has it been peer-reviewed? Heck no. Has anyone really tested it? God, no. Is it a miracle? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it is. The less we know, the better it is.
You want to save lives?
Sir,
this is what my heart is. I gave it to my friends and family.
You
this
really are like
lives.
a snake oil salesman.
It saved their lives.
You could be in the Old West standing on a box telling people to drink your amazing elixir.
I give the glory to God, and I do what Jesus has me do. I give the glory to God, and I want to help people.
Jesus
That's my passion. I'm not driven. I'm not money driven.
Remedies that are not remedies because they've never been tested.
I am not money driven, and why would I do this? Ask yourself why I would ruin my reputation if I didn't believe in this product.
You don't have a great reputation.
Really? And there we have it. He's doing this for the glory of God. Using the name of God covers a multitude of sins, at least in the eyes of Christians. And this is what I wanted to get at. We have folks like John MacArthur. We have folks like Jerry Falwell Jr. that like to fake this version of piousness and stand from a position where they judge others in a way that they themselves do not allow judgment. They stand at a place where they point out and they tear down and they do humanize people. And again, let's blame God. Or then you have grifters. We have grifters like this, like the president or Mike Lindell, people that he attracts into his circle. Grifters like this, they know how to manipulate people. They know how to tell people what they want to hear And guess what? The get out of jail free card is, I was just doing what God told me to do. I mean, Jerry Falwell, God just told me to keep an eye on my wife. And boy, did I like watching her. And the poo boy. No. What I'm saying is this. This is all lies. This is all false piousness. All of this has nothing to do with the kingdom of God. And yes, I feel like I come to the same conclusion in every show. But I do this for us to continue to be vigilant so that we can look out for crap like this. I mean, really. Mike Lindell is a shyster, and a shyster knows how to make money by ripping people off. He's attracted to the president who only attracts the best people. Most of them are already in jail. My favorite meme of the day was, if Trump wanted Hillary in jail so bad, he should have hired her. But no. But what grieves me in the midst of all this is all of these things being done in the name of God. And none of them have anything to do with the gospel, the heartbeat of God. None of this has to do with the fact that God sees people wherever they are at and says, I love you. But what about this? No. What about this? No. God's like, I love you where you're at. I love you where you are at. You're my beloved. You were made in my own image. I love you. I didn't create you to worship me, because that's weird and shallow and bizarre. Kind of weird and shallow and bizarre, like all of these leaders within the Christian faith that we've talked about today. No. God, these are all perversions to the teachings of Jesus. So I do this. I'm sorry. I feel like this show has just been a very long example of being able to point this out. I feel like this is a very just long example of this, to where we don't read in the Bible about a good shepherd who eats his sheep. I love them so much. I like their ribs. I like the steak part. I like the flank part. No. God is not a good shepherd that eats his flock, that uses his flock for his own glory, that creates people worship me. No. That is what Christians do when they make God in their own image, to where God is small and weird and impotent and petty, like all of these Christian leaders that we've spoken about today. And you want to talk about weird and petty? I didn't even get into Robert Jeffress because I didn't think y'all could handle that today. I know I couldn't. Because again, too many kinks, too much judgment, not enough Jesus. For too long has the name of God and the name of Christ been used as an advertising piece to build up small men and women. But if we're going historically, let's just go ahead and stick with this. Mainly small men. Small men that tear gas people in order for him to be able to have a photo op to hold a Bible upside down and stand there like the idiot that he is. The RNC is going on. I've begun my show talking about that. And they are going to be telling everyone, as they've done somewhat today, that they are going to give you the way of God. The way that God has laid out within his scriptures, about how grieved God is, and about how God placed President Trump in the position that he's in. And to be honest, if you really look at the God that they describe, like if you collectively put together the way they talk about God and where they ascribe God's values of being, and how they assume God to be, God is a profound asshole. He's a profound asshole. And that's exactly who Republicans want God to be. But it couldn't be further from the truth. It couldn't be further from the gospel either. They're all lies. So I began this hour quoting from Brother Lawrence. And I told you I would end it that way too. And I at least describe, I try to be a man of my word, so it worked this time. But I wanted us to end in this, as we've talked about all sorts of boasts and things that people ascribe with the name of God that have nothing to do with God. I'm reminded by this, once again, from Brother Lawrence, the way that he viewed God. And he said this: I regard myself as the most wretched of all men, stinking and covered with sores, and one who has committed all sorts of crimes against his king. Overcome by remorse, I confess all of my wickedness to him, ask his pardon, and abandon myself entirely to him to do with as he will. But this king, filled with goodness and mercy, far from chastening me, lovingly embraces me, makes me eat at his table, serves me with his own hands, gives me the keys to his treasures, and treats me as his favorite. He talks with me and is delighted with me in 1,001 ways. He forgives me and relieves me of my principal bad habits without even talking about them. I beg him to make me according to his heart, and always the more weak and despicable I see myself to be, the more beloved I am of God. We do a lot of things in the name of God. But at the end of the day, the one thing that we can say is true is that God is love. I'm comfortable with hanging God's moniker on that. God is love. And I think that you need to hear today, it's something I always need to hear, I need to come back to hearing, is just what Brother Lawrence had said. The more weak and despicable I see myself to be, the more beloved I am of God. You are God's beloved. Regardless of what a lot of these idiots that we've talked about for these last hour have said, God is love. God is not wrath. God is not anger. God is not bigotry. God is not misogyny. God is not any of these things. But God is love. And you, wherever you are at, regardless of how you view yourself or regardless of how those around you judge you and make you feel, you're beloved by God. And that is something that I know that I need to constantly be reminded of. So I'm reminding you of that today. And if you are beloved, you're beloved by God. How does it change the way you're living? How does it change the way that you look at yourself in the mirror? How you go out into the world without fear or worry of guilt? How does that impact how you are kind to others? How does it drive you to be able to replicate that type of love and kindness? Because it's as simple as that. If the heart of God, if the heart of Jesus, if the heart of all these teachings is love, then it needs to be our job to be able to replicate that love, to repeat it. Not in a fake way, not in some sort of a weird coercive way. No, because we just want to. Oftentimes you'll hear conservatives talk about the wrath of God. They really, really, really get off on that stuff, if I'm honest with you. They love it. They love it. God's wrath is my safe word. I think if we see a God of wrath, I think we're seeing a God of our own making. Because if love began this universe, love perpetuates this universe and pushes it forward, I'd rather be doing that than the rest of these a-holes in Christianity are doing right now. I don't know if it's just me or you or come on. But I would rather be a part of something that is redemptive, that is loving, that builds others up, that sees hope, that sees a new tomorrow in our own lives and in the lives of other people, because we can continue to move in that direction and become better, because you are the beloved of God. So go out and live like that. And as we end this broadcast, just a reminder that you can always catch us on podcasts at www.snarkyfaith.com, but I want to send you out into this week to do amazing things, to be amazing, to remember that God loves you, and also for you to learn to be kind to yourself. That's all I've got this week. And I send you out with the holiest amount of grace and snark and peace. I'll catch you guys again next week. I am out of here. Peace.